Hey, what goes on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm still getting situated over here, but I hope everybody's doing a-okay. Just making sure I look all right because you, the webcam, you watching me, you are the mirror. But yes, how is everybody doing? But yes, I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. I've reached 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. I really just can't believe it right now. It's such a big number and I never gotten that far before, so can you believe that after all these years I've actually gotten that far? I mean, I know after many years 10k doesn't seem so big, but to me it's huge. I've never reached 10,000 before, so it's insane. I've never reached 10,000 subs of anything. So it's such an amazing achievement just knowing that one day you just wake up and it's like, oh, by the way, you reached 10k, like... Interesting. I've reached a big 10k. Now, I don't know what to do to celebrate. How do you celebrate something like that, though? I mean, I'm still trying to think what I'm gonna do to celebrate 10,000 subs, but... right now, I got nothing. It just came out of nowhere, even though the number was slowly rising up there. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. It's still very exciting though. Play 10,000 games at once. How about, okay, let's see. Are there even 10,000 games to play? If I play 10,000 games on my computer, will it blow up? I want to know. I play 10,000 games until my computer blows up at once. I start up 10,000 games, press the start button, boom, my computer just blows up. Wouldn't that be amazing? But either way, how's everybody doing? Everybody having a good Friday so far? Let's continue on back with the Great Ace Attorney 2. Ah, the Knight Errant himself. Oh, have you been watching from the gallery, Mr. Sholmes? I've been on the edge of my seat the entire time. Courtroom trials are fascinating affairs, as a spectator at least. I'm glad you've been enjoying yourself. Ah, Harebrained. I have to ask. What on earth is going on? It makes no sense. What is this professor business all about? He doesn't look like any professor I've ever met before. Who even is he? Oh, of course. You were in Germany already 10 years ago. Sholmes cheers in the stands like he's at a sports game. Yeah! I mean... that would be hilarious though. I would love that if all of a sudden, like every few seconds, you just hear him go, yeah! Like munching on popcorn and everything, making a mess. The judge tells him to stop, but he won't. Yes, the professor. When I discovered he was the one who had been abducted, a sense of foreboding stirred within me. Sholmes is Ryunosuke's hype man. I mean, don't we all need a hype man like Sholmes? He is the ideal hype man. But who knew the monster would come knocking at your door? My heartfelt sympathies. As it turns out, Lord Von Zix is even more intimately tied to this case than any of us realized, isn't he? Yes, how true. His great friend from university in the dock. And now a waxwork of the killer who took his esteemed brother's life makes an appearance too. By the way, how's the audio to everybody? Audio a-okay? I imagine even the shrewd Mr. Reaper fails to foresee that kick in the teeth. An extraordinary move on your part, my dear fellow, to throw that in front of the man. You make it sound deliberate. That I just threw his killer's waxwork up there. I can't help feeling that this professor case is really very puzzling. Oh yes, in what particular manner? Well, there's Mr. Drebber, Dr. Seif, and Lord Von Zix. So to those who are wondering what's going on, last time I called on Dr. Sif to the stand, and they're like, how dare you call Dr. Sif to the stand? We love her. And then we're gonna realize Dr. Sif is actually Dr. Sus. It seems that everybody in the trial has a link to the case somehow. Oh, Arthur, don't... I mean, the thing is, I can imagine Sholmes with nothing but glow sticks. Sholmes is a rave man. He is a rave man. He goes to raves with all those glow sticks. He is a rave man. I just forgot to realize that my laundry was showing. I did laundry today and my laundry was showing. They're clean though. I cleaned. Ah, dang it. It's crazy to realize that I'm not blocking my stuff right there. Like, you could just clearly see the clean laundry I just done today. I just forgot to fold those up, I guess. A lot of things were going on today. I was doing chores today. Today was chore day. Today was laundry day as well. Today was a laundry day, then make sure I eat day, then make sure I had everything ready day, and 10,000 sub day. Like, what am I gonna do? Alright, yes, in fact, I alone am not a member of the set. Though that leaves me as an empty set, all alone with no intersection to any other. Excuse me? Dr. Sif? The dreamy lady? Ah, Dr. Courtney Sif. Nee Stevens. Sif Nee Stevens, good day to you. Hello, Sholmes. That was very shrewd of you. Why are you specifying that they are clean so much? Because if I don't specify that my laundry is clean, people will think that's nasty laundry. And I'm gonna be like, no. I don't want people coming back to this clip over here thinking that I had dirty laundry just strewn all about, okay? People couldn't act that way. What in particular, pray? You requested that 10-year-old autopsy report from Gregson, didn't you? Why would you assume such a thing? Because Gregson told me. I'm not dirty, stop it. I made 10,000 subs today, celebrate that, not the dirty laundry today, okay? To think it's been 10 years. 10 years in the lab, wielding my scalpel. I smell of nothing but corpses and disinfectant. A policeman on the jury had a lot to say about you as it happens, Dr. Sif. And I've accused you of being complicit in what happened. 10,000 articles of ah! My controller fell down. I'm hoping that you'll take the stand and tell the truth about what really happened. How you doing, fandom? Welcome to the stream. That certainly won't be possible. Lord Von Zeeks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Oh. Lord Strongheart? The Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any info about it out of me. But attempted to hide from the truth. That's cowardice. I've always fought crime in the way that I see fit. I have no regrets. None at all. And that's all I came here to say. So, good day to you. So we can have her as a witness that... She mentioned it too, this Pandora's box. Pandora's labyrinth of deceit. It's Kid Icarus. Whatever does it all mean? There's really no cause for concern, I assure you, when the trial resumes. The meaning will become all too apparent whether you like it or not. Huh? Now then, I believe it's almost time. I must make my way back to the public gallery. The edge of my seat awaits! Skiddy, 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 skiddy. I think maybe you're enjoying yourself a little too much. Ah, yes, one word of warning before I go. If, in the court of the trial this afternoon, you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. Huh? To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. Alright, I understand. Thank you. Good, I shall make myself scarce then. I purchased a bar of Kalma earlier, so I shall be gnawing on that as you gnaw away at the truth. You just hear in the background like freaking rapper sounds like, hold on, I think I got something here. In the background, all you hear is this. While Sholmes is gnawing away at the camera right there. Everything's all quiet. Objection! Why is this branding on a caramel bar? I mean, why does he have the branded caramel? Wait, What? You can't buy yourself you can't buy your own caramel bar with your own name on it? He bought it from the store that sells Sholmes stuff. The Sholmes fan shop, I guess. Ah, yes, I'll buy this caramel bar with my face on it. What did that warning from Mr. Sholmes really mean, I wonder? Especially the bit about whatever may come to pass. I guess we're gonna find out. We are going to find out. It's time for the final chapter then. No, it's not. I'm determined to find the truth, no matter what. This isn't the final chapter. This is chapter 4. Right? Yeah. No, 3, 4? Is this chapter? No, this is chapter 3. This is chapter 3. I'm making my own mistakes here. If this was 4, I'd be kind of crazy. Ah! In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsels for the defense and prosecution, are you ready and able to continue? The prosecution is ready, my lord. Yes, my lord. The defense is also ready with his fabulous pink drink. Does anybody know what this flavor is, though? It's pink. I'm gonna drink it. Oh, that is definitely pink. As the court is aware, the case under our scrutiny began with a damaging incident at the Great Exhibition. Yet we now find ourselves embroiled in the details of a convicted felon who was sent to the gallows a decade ago. This trial has certainly defied all expectation, as seems to be the fate of all trials in which this Nipponese is involved, my lord. So then, let us begin our exploration of the defense's assertion that the waxwork was cardinally involved in this matter. Lord Von Zieks? My lord? Are we still awaiting the arrival of Madame Suspels? Not at all. She is in the antechamber as we speak and ready to be summoned. Hey, beautiful lady. Very well, bring in the witness. At once, my lord. Bailiff, show Madame Suspels to the stand. Things are about to become a lot more intense. If Drebber is responsible, and I'm sure he is, it means he must have had an accomplice. An accomplice in Dr. Sif. And what connects the pair of them is the waxwork. Yes, the model of the professor. That's the key to the link between these otherwise unrelated individuals. It's a tenuous link, admittedly, but at present it's all we have to go on. Let's do it. Oh, is she making... That was a Dr. Sholmes head, wasn't it? State your name and occupation for the court, please. My name is Madame Esmeralda Suspels. I'm a waxwork artisan and the proprietress of the Madame Suspels Museum of Waxwork. You will have to pardon me for working as I testify. My new exhibit must open very soon. Oh, so he finally gets a statue, does he? Now, there are 2 of them in the world. Oh my, what expression is she carving onto that face? A number of days ago, a particular waxwork model was stolen from your museum. Can you confirm this? Oui, that is true. Oui. At first, we believed it had been kidnapped. A waxwork model kidnapped? Yes, my lord, there was a demand for ransom money left behind by the culprit. However, according to what I have just been told outside the courtroom, that was not the true reason. I understand it was utilized as a substitute for the body of a murder victim. At present, that is no more the conjecture proposed by the defense. French mode on. Oui. Baguette. Croissant. I don't know much more French besides that and oui. And omelette du fromage. Am I still saying French stuff? I hope that's French stuff still. Pixel, that is not French. You are speaking some weird language. This is the victim of the case in question, Dr. Mr. Odie Asman. But of course, I know him well. He is a part of my odious personage's exhibit. I detest to say what is evident, but Mr. Asman does not resemble the professor at all. Yes, but perhaps their faces are very similar. Are you suggesting that we should see now the demasked visage of the professor? I have here the key, but it is strictly forbidden to open the lock. This is absurd. Pardon? I don't know what face you've carved onto your fancy figure beneath that mask, but clearly it won't be that of the actual killer. Indeed, the man's identity was never made public after all. The trial took place in a closed court. The proceedings were strictly confidential. The condemned man was summarily executed. His identity remains a closely guarded national secret. There is no possible way that a repository of tawdry exhibits could get its hands on that info. Quel dommage. What does that mean? It would seem you are unaware of the T'Spel's principles. What principles? The family T'Spels has always prided itself on sculpting its models à la perfection. Every detail, including the visage, is fashioned with complete fidelity. Et voila, our principles. Aw, Nathan, thank you for the resub, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, happy 10K. 38 months, though. I'm freaking impressed. Dommage means too bad. Thank you, Arthur. There is a well-known legend about the T'Spel's waxworks from the time of the French Revolution. A member of the T'Spel's family is said to have made a waxwork of the queen who was executed. Ooh, that is true. It was a century ago now. I believe the queen's face was carved in the minutes following her death. Actually, at the guillotine. What? The face was carved. So, before she was dead, they were carving her face. So, like, you keep that face right there before you get your head sliced off. Right there. Perfect. At the guillotine site. You are correct. The model is on display still today in the House of Horrors. Oh, dang it. You mean the French Revolution got me? That's what happened? The freaking French Revolution always gets me. Why? We T'Spels will stop at nothing to obtain a faithful replica of our subjects. Dear me, a somewhat disturbing tenacity of purpose. It is the only way to obtain a truly lifelike representation of the subject. And it has been my family's secret for generations. Do you mean to say that beneath the mask, Oui, the true visage of the killer is there. This is ludicrous. It's out of the question. The professor spread terror throughout Great Britain. As a result, the Madame T'Spel special exhibit remains extremely popular even today. The killer emerging from his own grave. It is a sight to behold. You should come. I think, Madame, it would be beneficial to hear your formal testimony on this matter. You will explain every detail of this macabre model and your personal involvement in its creation. With pleasure. By the way, chat, can I say, is it okay if I fall in love with Madame T'Spels? I love her. She shall be mine. We live in two different timelines, but she shall be mine. Yeah, sure. Yay! The special exhibit in the House of Horrors. No, the punk doesn't mean what I think it means, okay? The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with the T'Spel's family principles. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered. She was just waiting there to get the gravedigger. The man sanctioned this? Oui, I will do all that is necessary to achieve the true resemblance my family is celebrated for. Nobody else knew, only the gravedigger. What harm did it do? Huh? So you truly saw it? The face of that monster? Naturally, I was aware at the time that his identity was a secret. But the spells would not be to spells if we did not insist on absolutely fidelity to our sculptures. So, let's say if I were made a sculpture, right, chat? If I were made a sculpture, she wouldn't carve this. She would carve this. If I were the dead one, and people would be like, wait, how do you know what Pixel actually looks like? He's a sloth. How do you know what Pixel looks like? We've never seen his actual face. We've only seen the sloth face. And that she actually got my real face. How did she get my real face? I don't know. I don't believe this. I myself have seen the special exhibit at your museum, madame. A truly blood-curdling scene in which the murderer is emerging from his own grave. The scene it depicts was the subject of many rumors in London 10 years ago. I have here a newspaper from the time. Oh, that is creepy. The special exhibit was based upon the picture in this article. It was the most detailed account of what happened, as reported by the eyewitness who saw it. Cool. 10-year-old paper. Smells like the past. Man rises from the grave. It's too absurd for words. The public enjoy absurdity, monsieur. That is why I have reproduced the scene as carefully as possible in my museum. And it's a waxwork from that exhibit that was stolen some days before the incident at the Great Exhibition, wasn't it? That is correct. The professor you see before you here. Most puzzling. Counsel for the defense, proceed with the cross-examination. This waxwork links Drebber to Dr. Sif, and there has to be some reason for that which hasn't yet come to light. But I'll find it. I'll get to the bottom of what really happened. I'll prove that Dr. Sif and Drebber were in on this crime together. Let's do it. Let's link stuff up. Cross-examination. The special exhibit in the House of Horrors is based on a rumor that shocked society in London. And that rumor would be a 10-year-old tale now, but one that no Londoner would ever forget. Alright, I know just what you're talking about, I think. Of course, it couldn't be anything else. Yes, that story will never disappear. The tale of the condemned killer rising from the dead. That is the central attraction of my House of Horrors. The rumor was whispered all over the city, and it was like this. He was in Lowgate Cemetery behind the prison, in the dead of night after the execution of the killer. The interred professor slid back the stone slab covering his tomb, and emerged from his grave. A young man who witnessed this felt a scream welling up inside him. But an instant later, he heard an ear-splitting gunshot from over his shoulder. The bullet struck the emerging corpse, and he fell motionless once more. The scream finally found its way from the mouth of the young witness, who turned and ran for his life. Spooky. Are you scared? I'm terrified. The corpse climbed out of his own grave? And then somebody shot him? Who was it? Nobody knows, even today. But remember, it was just a rumor, perhaps nothing more than a ghost story. The good people of London, they love stories like this. That is why it was in every newspaper across the capital. But what was it just a story? Sorry, I actually messed up right there. I was actually like forgetting what to say next. I mean, this is exactly the scene that could be seen today at your museum, isn't it? Oui, the special exhibit was modeled on that very illustration. For a while afterwards, the contents of that article were reproduced in every newspaper imaginable. Madame, might I say something? Please go ahead, mademoiselle. When something is described as a rumor, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's entirely made up. I believe that often rumors contain elements of the truth. I see that people from the East can be just as astute as people of Europe. Can we be sure, for instance, that the professor's execution was successful? It is not possible for the dead to come back to life. Sorry? 10 years ago, I was there in Lowgate Cemetery. After the criminal known as the professor was killed by hanging, I took a wax impression of his visage from the corpse just before it was interred. So I can assure you, the man was dead. I see. It would certainly appear that the condemned man suffered the intended fate. Spooky ghost story and everything. An impression of the visage was taken directly from the corpse, in accordance with T'Spel's family principles. Is that true of every waxwork in the museum, then? It is, assuming the subject is dead, of course. Live subjects have to cooperate in a similar way. I have letters from imprisoned criminals all the time, you know. Wait, what sort of letters? When my time comes, please make a waxwork of me. Kameka. No! My museum is famous, monsieur. To be made into a waxwork is an honor, and for some criminals, a symbol of status even. Because nothing says hardened criminal better than wax. And it is thanks to one killer in particular that my museum has gained such popularity in London. I refer to the star of the special exhibit, of course, the Professor. Kameka means like that. Oh. Whose form you claim to have captured by taking an impression from the actual corpse? There are no exceptions to the principles of the spells. I enlisted the aid of the gravedigger and created a mold for the head in the cemetery just before the interment. Surely that's illegal, isn't it? It would seem the proprietress of this repository of novelties was blinded by monetary greed. It had nothing to do with money. The man is part of London's criminal history, that is why I had to sculpt him, to record this history. It is the raison d'etre, the raison d'etre of the T'Spel's Museum. It is the raison d'etre of the T'Spel's Museum. Hopefully I'm pronouncing these things right. If I'm not, chat, do let me know. And if I'm wrong, don't let me know, but do let me know. But if the man was convicted in a closed court and sent for immediate execution, then surely nobody but the members of the judiciary present know the killer's true identity. I assure you, behind that mask is hidden the true face of the Professor. So imagine she opens up the mask, it's a mirror. It's like, you're the killer, you're the killer, you're the killer. It's just a flippin' mirror. Do you realize what you're saying? The Professor's identity is a national secret. I don't care. I understand, but I don't care. And now that the truth about the special exhibit has been revealed, it must perhaps close. Of course it will, as will your entire museum if you don't tread very carefully, madame. That could be another interesting chapter in the history of my family, I think, don't you? So 10 years ago, on the night of the Professor's execution, you took a wax impression of his face from the corpse. Oui, exactamente. Oh, raison d'etre means purpose. I'm learning. Kameka raison d'etre, like that purpose. I'm pretty sure that's not how you say it, but I think I said something. I said something alright. I hid myself until he gave me a signal. I was there for a very long time that night. You were there longer than you expected to be? I had some difficulties in capturing the subject's form correctly. As I removed the mask, the mouth of the cadaver fell open, and I had some problems with the chin. Dare I ask? The man had been dead for a short while already, you see. His muscles were relaxing and consequently his chin would not align itself correctly. Oh dear, what a horrible thought. Under normal circumstances, I would have an assistant with me. However, that night I was alone, and as a consequence, I missed my preferred window of time. What do you mean? When I take the impression of the visage of a cadaver, I always wait until 3 hours after death. Why 3 hours? Is that amount of time significant? It is because of rigor mortis. Rigor mortis? It's the name given to a phenomenon that occurs in recently deceased bodies. As a rule, 3 hours post-death, the muscles in the body begin to stiffen. By approximately 10 hours post-death, the entire body is completely rigid and inflexible. And then from that point on, the muscles slowly start to revert to their relaxed state. The effect is often used to estimate the time of death when a body is discovered. Oh. Well, that was an education, if a slightly scary one. As the Mademoiselle says, rigor mortis commences 3 hours after death, and it starts in the jaw. I see, so that's why you wait. Before that time, the mouth falls open, and it is very difficult to do my work. Ugh, it's getting hard for me to do my work with all this talk of corpses. I wonder about that info the courts just heard from Madame Tuspels. Let's make it significant. The info about rigor mortis that you just shared with us, would you mind including it into your formal testimony? I believe it could be significant, you see. Of course, I do not mind at all. I can't help feeling that after this latest topic, the commence be... I mean, it makes sense that commence means begin. It means let the thing commence. Yeah, that's actually very simple right there. The atmosphere in the courtroom has become extremely grave. And then we cue the applause. This is no time for jokes, Miss Usato. This is no time for jokes. Madame, kindly amend your testimony as discussed. Bien sûr. Does that mean sure? Or very good? It took me a very long time because it was before the onset of rigor mortis. Rigor mortis being the phenomenon you described, whereby the corpse becomes stiff after death. I think you said that it starts at the jaw, about 3 hours post-death, is that right? Oui, c'est ça. Though of course the exact duration depends a little on the season. I didn't realize a waxwork artisan would be so well versed in the subject. No, that is only elementary knowledge in the field of legal medicine. Well, I had no idea about it, but maybe I won't admit with my ignorance about forensic science. I could ask my father to give you a very simple primer if you like. I think corpses should be your domain. I'm not good with them. Oh dear. I'll do my very best. Let's work with corpses. Usato, you deal with the corpses. As dawn approached, I was very worried that I could be discovered. You say that dawn was approaching. What was the time of day then? Approximately. Well, I could not say. But when I left the cemetery with my utensils and wax, the morning light was becoming visible. The execution took place on 17th June, which had the earliest sunrise of that year. Indeed it did. First light would have been at around 4:40 in the morning. That really is early. The fact is, I had very little time, so I finished my work in a half hour. It was necessary to complete the impression and bury the body before daybreak, of course. If somebody had discovered me there, it would have been a catastrophe, so I had to hurry. Is it me, or does Mr. Sholmes seem to be taking shape more quickly now, too? You certainly appear to go to extraordinary lengths for your work, madame. I wonder, is what she said just particularly significant? Let's make it significant. Madame, those details about how long it took you to complete the sculpture and the early sunrise, could you include them in your testimony? I believe they may be significant. Of course, if you would like me to. You're quite right, Mr. Nadaho, though it is intriguing. A sunrise at 4 in the morning would be absolutely unimaginable at home, wouldn't it? That's not quite what I mean by significant. Kindly amend your formal testimony then, madame. With pleasure, my lord. I hurried to finish my work in a half hour before sunrise. Then I left as soon as the corpse was interred. Did you have reason to believe you might be discovered once the sun came up or something? I had paid the gravedigger money to keep my little secret, of course. But with the morning light, I knew that the warden from the prison would commence his patrol of the area. Couldn't you just have paid off the warden too then? I had already paid the gravedigger, as I said. You cannot buy the silence of everyone, or the secret is no longer a secret, huh? The sunrise was at 4:40 that day, which means that it would have been around 4 when you began your sculpting work. Oui, that must be correct. That would be when the gravedigger gave me the signal to come out of hiding. So that's all I have to go on. What's your feeling, Mr. Naruhodo? For some reason, Dr. Sif went along with Drebber's plan. Now, if that's really true, then the professor is the only other thing we know of that links the pair of them. So I feel sure that waxwork must be a clue to this mystery somehow. In that case, we must use this cross-examination to uncover exactly what it means. Otherwise, the jurors are sure to revert their leanings, and the trial will be over. I agree, but interestingly, uncovering what the professor has to do with all of this means more to Lord Van Zieks than anyone. That's the impression I'm getting anyway. Yes, as do I. After all, he has a profound connection to the professor as well. Okay, so it has to be one of those last two statements right there. I'm gonna save just in case, because I have to connect this somehow. Let me see. No, I don't want to save again. That's my mistake. Let's see. Very long time because it was before the onset of rigor mortis. Hurry to finish your work in half an hour. Do I have to say what's up here? Let's see. I don't think I have to use this at all. Don't think that's gonna be used. The contract, super high voltage, that's not gonna help out. Post-explosion, the killer's autopsy report. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight. That could, So, that at midnight. I'm pretty sure I have to use this. The death was hanged around midnight. The onset of rigor mortis should have happened at around 3 o'clock. It was before the onset of rigor mortis. And a half hour before sunrise. Wait. So one question though, if the sunrise was at 4:40 and she started at 4:10, why didn't she start at 3? If the death was by hanging at midnight.
Objection.
Oh. Okay, that didn't work then. I feel like that has to be used for something then. Why did you wait that long then? Maybe that's the wrong statement to use it on. Let me go back and check again. It was before the onset of rigor mortis. What about
Objection.
here? Okay, it was the wrong statement. But after spells, I have here an autopsy report that was filed 10 years ago now. It confirms the death of the professor following his execution at the gallows. And is that a problem? I believe it is, because your testimony and a particular detail in the report completely contradict one another. Kui? Are you going to explain yourself, my Nipponese friend? According to her testimony, Madame Tespels was creating her wax impression just before dawn, and at that time, rigor mortis had not yet set in. Am I correct so far, Madame? You are, yes. As I said, the stiffening of the jaw is the first sign of rigor mortis 2 to 3 hours after death. But the man's chin was limp, so he cannot have been dead for a long time. But on the other hand, if you look at Dr. Sif's report, it quite clearly states the following. Death by hanging confirmed at midnight, 17th June. No! If the professor indeed died at midnight that day, then by the time you were scoped in his face, rigor mortis would already have set in. Yes, you're right. The chin, it would have been completely stiff. In other words, this report is wrong.
Objection.
No coroner makes mistakes when recording the time of death. The very idea is absurd. Kui? How do you pronounce that? Is it ui or kui or i? In that case, there's only one possible conclusion. The execution didn't actually take place at the stated time. Impossible. Order. Counsel, this is beyond folly. Not only do you indict the author of the report, Dr. Sif, but you also implicate members of staff of Barclay Prison where the execution took place. By heck, extraordinary. Not in my day. Bang. Koa. My learned friend appears to have overlooked one very crucial fact. What fact? The professor died that night, without question. He did. Of course he did. I moved the man's lip jaw in my own hands. There was no...
Objection.
Yes, the professor died that night. But what if he didn't die at the gallows? Didn't die at... Are you insane? What exactly are you suggesting did happen in that case? It's almost impossible to believe, but it would explain the link between Dr. Sif, the professor, and that one other person of interest. I have evidence that will explain exactly what I'm suggesting happened that night. Council, present the evidence at once. The evidence that allegedly explains what really happened on the night of Professor's execution. That happened on the night of the Professor's execution. Alright, let's see. Evidence that allegedly explains what happened. What did happen that night? Could it be this? Do I use the article? What happened that night is written very plainly in this newspaper article. Executed criminal returns in the dead of night at local cemetery. You're suggesting that it was a corpse coming back from the dead now? Well, if this article is to be believed, then yes. The professor, assumed dead following his execution, emerged from his grave and was killed again.
Objection.
Don't be a fool. That's simply a rumor published by the gutter press. By the fake. Can you be certain of that? Are you serious? The point is, as the article says, there was a witness to what happened. My word, yes indeed. Masui, the young man who stole into the cemetery by chance that night.
Objection.
Of course there was a witness. The story didn't write itself, but obviously the man made it all up. And in any case, this was 10 years ago now. There would surely be no hope of finding him.
Objection.
On the contrary, my lord, we all know this witness well. What? Are you suggesting, counsel, that you've identified the person in question? That you know who claims to have seen these utterly incredible events take place? Yes, my lord. In fact, you can say that he's right here before my very eyes. You will substantiate your latest claim now then, counsel. Who is the alleged witness of this staggering scene from the cemetery 10 years ago? Easy. That is Mr. Enoch Drebber. The man in question is Mr. Enoch Drebber. Drebber? The previous witness? The special exhibit in the House of Horrors at Madame Tussauds Museum of Waxwork recreates that decade-old scene in great detail. The condemned criminal emerging from the grave, and beside the tomb, a young man with a lantern stumbling upon the terrifying sight. And that young man it's a 10-year younger Mr. Enoch Drebber. Sorry, I didn't sound really serious in that line. 10-year-old younger Enoch Drebber. Surely not, counsel. Drebber was there in Locate Cemetery. What is all this talk about Mr. Drebber? Is the name significant? Of course, Madame Tussauds doesn't know, does she? Yes, it's extremely significant, madame. To your situation as well, in fact. What situation? The theft of the Professor Waxwork from your museum some days ago was perpetrated by the very same man. No, but that would mean... Madame Tussauds. It would appear you know the name, Enoch Drebber. Oui, yes, I know it. But from long ago in the past. What? Oh my. Good gracious. Explain yourself. Tell us everything you know. Yes. Yes, of course. The story of a young man and the terrible sight he witnessed in the cemetery 10 years ago was published in every single newspaper in London and throughout Great Britain. However, In all of the articles, the witness was simply described as a certain young man. No details were published about his identity. His name was never revealed. That is, apart from in one newspaper. The Daily Circus. It is the paper from which comes the article I have already shown to court. Does anybody else read from the Daily Circus? Anybody else a fan of the Daily Circus? With a newspaper called the Daily Circus, it really publishes non-circus news. You're saying that his full name was only publicized in the article? In that one? Goodness me, yes, here it is. The university student who experienced this shocking event is Mr. Enoch Drebber, a disciple of science at the University of London and a resident of the student dorms. Unbelievable. When I read the article, I went to meet with the man. His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the His discovery of the condemned criminal coming back to life in the cemetery in the dead of night would make a perfect exhibit for my house of horrors, whether it was the truth or not. I see. So you went to meet Mr. Drebber in order to sculpt a waxwork of the man, did you? Exactamente. He was studying science at the University of London in those days. He was just a poor student. I paid him £5 to model for the Max. What? Hold on, chat. I can't read right now. Weird sounds and more coming from my mouth. Don't know what's going on. Why can't I just say my freaking words? I'm trying to read this stuff and I said max work instead of waxwork. Come on. Okay, hopefully that works. Gotta loosen those lips. Loosen those lips. All right. Here we go. Water. Okie dokie. Here we go. I paid him £5 to model for the waxwork, and since that time, it has been in my museum to recreate the scene of terror from the cemetery. Imagine getting paid only £5 to do that. I'd go for no less than £20 of weight. Silence. It's a bunch of silence. So, 10 years ago, a young man appealed to the public about an extraordinary event he witnessed. A criminal who had been put to death re-emerging from his grave in the middle of the night. But the public treated his claim as nothing more than an amusing anecdote that was soon forgotten. 10 years later, the same man steals a waxwork model of the executed criminal, ostensibly to use as a body double for the victim in the case we're discussing here today. Even though the waxwork's build is a poor match for the victim, and its face is obscured by a mask. So the question is, why would a man do such a thing? Which brings us to 3 days ago, when the birdcage crashed into the Crystal Tower. If the birdcage had in fact contained not the body of Mr. Asmund, but that same waxwork, the coroner from Scotland Yard who investigated Dr. Sif would have noticed immediately. And yet, she submitted this autopsy report for the victim which the court has seen earlier. Why? Because the waxwork was that of the professor. Is that what you're saying? Dr. Sif put her name to a document confirming the death of a condemned criminal who is still alive. A criminal whose apparent resurrection was witnessed by Mr. Drebber. But that misconduct was a deadly secret the coroner would do anything to protect. Which is precisely why Mr. Drebber used that particular waxwork as the body double. Oh! My lord, this court must summon Dr. Sif to the stand. The defense is determined to find out exactly how the coroner and Mr. Drebber are connected. But according to the missive I received this morning through the prosecutor's office, Dr. Sif is unable to participate in these proceedings. Is that not the case? She told us so herself, didn't she? Unless she was lying. Lord Van Zieks won't be summoning me as a witness. Lord Strongheart has forbidden it. Lord Strongheart? The Pandora's box you were warned about is the Professor case. But please don't make the mistake of thinking you'll get any info about it out of me. Something happened on the night of that killer's execution 10 years ago. And surely nobody will want to get to the bottom of that more than Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution calls for the instructions in that missive to be scrapped. Whoa, go Van Zieks. But Lord Van Zieks, the missive was issued from the Lord Chief Justice's office.
Objection!
The assigned prosecutor has the final say on policy in any particular trial. In other words, me. This guy really saying screw the rules? Yes. Let Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sif both take the stand together. Go Van Zieks. Order! Very well, I will uphold your request. Bailiff, send a subpoena with immediate effect addressed to Dr. Sif of the Forensic Investigation Team. The woman is compelled to attend on Her Majesty's orders. Alright then, Enoch Drebber and Dr. Sif. If they weren't colluding with one another, this crime could have never been committed. I'm just a stone's throw away, I can feel it. The truth behind all of this is about to come out. We definitely stand Van Zieks now. I'm a Van Zieks stand. Oh. All I just saw was the floating head, and I'm like, what? Thank you for your attendance at such short notice, Dr. Sif. I'm disappointed in you, Lord Van Zieks. You completely betrayed the agreed policy of both Scotland Yard and the prosecutor's office. Betrayal is not in my nature as long as the truth isn't compromised. If it is, if there's even a hint of wrongdoing, then no matter whom it concerns or disgruntles, I will pursue the matter to the bitter end, as would any prosecutor worth his salt. Mr. Drebber, you took the victim's life by means of a machine that you constructed in your workshop. And Dr. Sif, as the investigating coroner, you were the first on the scene to examine the victim's body. It is the belief of the defense that you collaborated with each other and were both complicit in this crime. And where's your evidence? At present, we have no definitive evidence, but we do have a very significant clue. What are you talking about? I'm talking, of course, about the waxwork. This model of the killer known as the Professor, who was sentenced to death 10 years ago. You don't need to tell me. I witnessed the man's execution with my own eyes and officially pronounced him dead. That remains to be seen. Is that so? According to newspaper reports from that time, on the night following the execution, the killer came back to life. Don't waste my time. And the sole witness to that mysterious event was you, Mr. Drebber, wasn't it? Can you freaking talk? If what you saw in the graveyard that night 10 years ago wasn't some chilling fiction but reality, it would make you privy to a very great secret of Dr. Sif's. A secret so profound it could compel the coroner to agree to collaborate in your evil scheme, in fact. Mr. Drebber, tell the court, tell everyone the truth of what you saw that night in Lowgate Cemetery. Say something. So he was the student who saw it? You can see the resemblance actually, can't you? With the man in Madame Tussauds, I mean. Surely he's not gonna claim that's really what he saw, especially not after all these years. He was a research student at the University of London, was he? And a bit too clever for his own good if you ask me. What an interesting twist. When at the time, not one person would take me seriously. Yet now here we are 10 years later and suddenly my story matters. And in the court of law too. Just gonna raise up the audio just a bit more, chat. Very well then, if everyone so wishes. Let's be frank, I'll tell you the truth of what happened that night for what it's worth. So, Mr. Drebber, your testimony please about the events of that night 10 years ago. You will tell the court exactly what you stumbled across in Lowgate Cemetery. Yes, of course, as you wish. The way he moves around is so weird. What the heck? Why'd they animate him like that? What the heck, animators? You did a great job. It's creepy. The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say? Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. But thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. Wait a minute. You're claiming you didn't actually see the professor now? Of course, you have to have a screw loose if you believe the corpse could come back from the dead. But, so you're saying this article is not worth the paper it's printed on? I think that would describe it perfectly, yes. If the details in the article aren't true, it nullifies your argument for why Mr. Drebber and Dr. Sif would be working together. So he's discrediting himself to cripple my argument? Tell me, witness. You claim to have been in the cemetery on some auxiliary business. Can you elaborate? That's right, grave robbing to be precise. As you know, Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. So among students at the university, it had a reputation for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. Of course, I never laid a finger on any valuables buried with the dead. So you were one of the so-called resurrectionists, a particularly unpleasant scourge in society. Actually, my fellows and I went by another name. The repurposers. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sir. Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me, and unambiguously, I might add. I see. Out of interest, who drew the illustration for this article? Ah, yes, that was the reporter who exposed me. He sketched that right in front of me as I described the scene. Obviously, as time ticked on, I bitterly regretted what I've done. Claiming to have seen something I never truly saw. Foolish, very foolish. Well, counsel for the defense, you may proceed to the cross-examination now. At once, my lord. Alright, let's go find some answers. Dr. Sif did look at him strangely for a bit, so... The reason I was in Lowgate Cemetery at all 10 years ago was for a spot of moonlighting, shall we say. By moonlighting, you mean grave robbing, do ya? Surely you only need to look at the graveyard scene and my appearance to gauge the answer to that. The lantern and spade. But who on earth would want to buy a dead body? Any major hospital. A hospital? In order to better understand the human body, the study of anatomy is crucial to medical science, but there isn't a hospital in the world that has enough specimens to work with. Though obviously they can't openly express an interest in obtaining more by dubious means. As aspiring scientists, we young research students had no money to work with, as I'm sure you can imagine. So we made surreptitious arrangements with a hospital via some of our medical student acquaintances. We would never take anything of value from the graves. This was all for the furtherance of science, you see. That's what we all told ourselves every time we stole into the graveyard at night, spade in hand. You realize body snatching is a serious crime. If you were caught, you could expect the gravest of consequences. God, gravest. We students were caught between the hammer and the anvil. We needed funds for research. Professor Harebrained said exactly the same. I'm quite speechless at the apparent levity with which you revealed this abhorrent behavior. Well, if you wanted to know why I was there at Lowgate Cemetery, that's the reason. But I never expected it to end the way it did. That I regret to this day. Yes, the illustration in that newspaper article was based on what I witnessed that night. The strange happening at Lowgate Cemetery, which you now deny. Not entirely. I ran to fetch the police at the time, you know. I was shaking like a leaf. But they didn't believe a word of it. In fact, I smell food. Somebody's making food in here. I wonder what it is they're making, but I smell it. In fact, I was very nearly arrested myself. So you went to the papers instead. I started big with the London News, but unsurprisingly, they didn't want to know either. In the end, though, it was reporters from the gossip rags, the gutter press, that came to get my story. And it spread like the plague through the capital as gossip-hungry Londoners lapped up the tale. The story was in every single paper at the time, with the exception of some broadsheets. And yet only 2 or 3 of them actually interviewed me personally. Most of the accounts turned out to be very interpretive ghost stories. What about the article in the Daily Circus? That particular journalist found me at my dormitory. I don't know how, but he discovered my name. I got doxxed, so I recounted to him exactly what had happened that night. Imagine getting doxxed in a newspaper. And from your description, he drew this illustration. Precisely, that's how I learned that the condemned man was the infamous professor. Because the reporter told me so. I had no idea myself, you see. Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around Newspaper reporters are wont to snoop around in matters that don't concern them. So the scene portrayed in the illustration is accurate then. Well, what? Thinking back now, I realized that I never actually saw the professor at all, though. Wait, what are you talking about? I explained already, didn't I? Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear Barclay Prison. So it was renowned among us students at the university for being haunted by the ghosts of condemned convicts. For some absurd reason, I was scared of the graveyard at night. And as a result, only 2 willing to believe that nonsense about the dead coming back to life. But you said you actually saw it. Hey Kane, what's up? I saw what I seen in my mind's eye. After all, resurrection is impossible, isn't it? You have to be unhinged to think otherwise. Unless, of course, you have some evidence that proves I encountered the professor that night. I don't know. Is there any material evidence that could show he really did see the professor? If we have anything at all, Mr. Naruhodo. I know I need to present it against that irritatingly backtracking statement of his. The point is, that night was a pivotal moment in my life. Hold on, we did see... Good thing we're all unhinged, right? Are we all unhinged? We all unhinge our jaws, right? If people can actually unhinge their jaws like snakes do, that'd be kind of creepy. Just go... Let's see, we did get this camera around. It was around the waxwork of Mr. Drebber, so...
Objection.
Oh. So it wasn't the camera? Oh, dang, I'm thinking way too ahead right there. I'm thinking way too ahead. Let me just dial it back a bit. Thing is, we should have proof that he's seen. What does the camera prove? You need an actual photo, you're right. Ah, dang, you're right about that. I was thinking way too ahead right there, but do we have any evidence so far then? any evidence that he actually did see it, because I don't know, like immediately the camera snaps to mind. That was just it right there. But right now, I'll just keep on going right now. Soon afterwards, I was visited by a young woman who sculpted a model of me from wax.
Hold it!
Is anybody ready for Kane's cursed cuisine? What? That young woman being Madame Tussauds, of course. Precisely, I must say I didn't expect to run into her again like this 10 years later. As I have explained, I went by the name published in the article and Kameka, I found the man. Yes, the article in the Daily Circus, I think you said. I was a poor student with barely a penny to my name at the time. And a young lady put £5 in front of me. £5 is £5. So you readily consented to have a waxwork of yourself made and gave permission for it to be put on display. I did. I should sell what little I had to sell, I concluded. Oui, I remember now. I purchased something else from you that day, n'est-ce pas? What else did she buy? Did you? I can't say I remember. What was it, madame? His camera. Ah. Oh yes, I made a point of taking it with me whenever I made an excursion to any cemetery. You took a camera with you, sir? To what end? To record the details of the bodies I disinterred. But I had no intention of ever visiting a graveyard again after that night, so I'd sold it. I see. But I still have it, monsieur. It is part of the special exhibit in my House of Horrors. I am very meticulous about such details. It is the Tussauds way. It would seem, then, that this is the very camera Mr. Drebin took with him to Lowgate Cemetery in the night in question. Yes, interesting. Okay, there we go. Now, okay, so the camera had to update. I was thinking way too ahead. Are you joking me? I found today while shopping a new product from the company that made the mac and cheese and pizza ice cream. Oh my goodness, Speaking about those things, I was at a friend's house a couple of weeks ago, and they had the mac and cheese and pizza ice creams. I didn't taste them, but what the heck? Why is there mac and cheese and pizza ice cream? Why is there Grey Poupon flavored ice cream with ew! Who buys ice cream of mac and cheese? Who actually goes to the store and says, hey, you know what I want? I want pizza ice cream. The more I talk about it, the more sick I'm getting. I am feeling really disgusted right about now. Like, every time I talk about it, I just feel like something's about to come up for me. Ugh. Ugh. Okay, so now that the camera updated, just gonna do this real quick because, you know, I was a bit ahead and then the camera updated, so I think now's the right time to present the flippin' camera. So, camera... Well, bam! Oh. Dang it! Did I mess up again? Ah, dang it. So, okay, so I guess that wasn't the right thing to do then. I guess I was way too ahead again. Dang it. I know you need an actual photo, but I just thought, like, dang it, I thought this would be it. Do I need to, like, look up at the camera again or something? No, because there's no photo in here. Dang it. Okay, I was thinking way too ahead again. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. This article, you mean? Published in the Daily Circus? Yes, somebody informed the dean that it was my name that appeared in the article, and carelessly let slip that night after night I was digging up graves. Hardly a model student, you might say. The university's reputation was execrably defiled, and I was expelled as a result. Mon Dieu, I had no idea. And having been run out of university, you found employment in a somewhat specialist trade. You combined your knowledge of science with knowledge of stage magic to create various experimental machines intended to demonstrate never-before-seen technology. And you used those deceptive machines to trick the government and private investors into giving you money. Professor Albert Harebrained was just your latest victim, wasn't he? Whatever are you talking about? I have no recollection of doing anything of the sort. What's Trevor up to? Why would he suddenly change his tune and recant his claim? I wonder if perhaps it's because his circumstances have changed now. What circumstances? Well, if he admits to having seen the professor emerging alive from his grave 10 years ago, it will expose a secret in Dr. Sif's past that she would desperately want to hide. Yes, of course, if Trevor and Miss Dr. Sif were working together now, then if Trevor were to betray her, there would be no reason for her to continue to cooperate. In that case, there's only one way around it. I'll have to prove he really did see it. Prove he really did see the professor's corpse coming back from the dead, as he originally claimed. Yes, Mr. Naruhodo, exactly. We should have plenty of evidence proving that, though, so... Let me just save once again. Because now, he just says, oh, I've never worked with him, but we do have proof on that, though. We do have proof that he did get the contract right here. But I don't know if this is the right place to use it.
Objection!
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I made a mistake right there. Dang it. I got everything down, but what do I use? What do I use? Let's see. He never saw the professor at all, and then he was visited to... Okay, so... Did he ever see the professor? Do we ever have evidence of that, though? Let's see. You never saw the professor at all. Hold on, chat. I'm thinking. I'm really thinking. You never saw it. But what about the waxwork head, though? Do I present the waxwork head? But no, this is about back then. It's about back then. It's all about back then. You never saw the professor at all, then... Hold on, I'm actually kind of stuck right now. Said he never saw the professor at all. His camera did update. Like if I open up this back over here... This is where the photographic plate goes, I think, isn't it? Yes, that's right. Isn't it incredible to think that this is the actual camera Mr. Trevor used that night? I certainly never imagined a piece of evidence would be on display in Madame Dispels. She's very keen on everything being as true to life as possible, though, isn't she? Oh, okay. The newspaper? I mean, will that work?
Objection!
Wait, what? But I thought it was like, huh? To be honest, I thought he was gonna be like, no. Okay, I need to know the reasoning why so I can understand a little bit more. Sorry, Mr. Driver, but I don't. Sorry, Mr. Driver, but I don't believe that. Don't believe what? Your latest claim. You did see the professor on that night 10 years ago. Oh dear, we seem to be at odds. But I was there and you were not. I know what I didn't see. The illustration with this article was drawn based upon what you told the journalist that you witnessed. Okay, that can explain it, because how would he draw it? A figure emerging from a tomb wearing an iron mask. Yes, when the killer was tried 10 years ago, it was decided in the closed court's ruling that the man will wear the mask to hide his identity. Oh, so he was hidden away so nobody knows about the iron mask. It wasn't to be removed even during his execution and subsequent burial. Not even the prison wardens were to see the man's face. But obviously, the provision of this mask was not public knowledge. So, Mr. Drebber, as you've just heard, a lowly student of the University of London certainly wouldn't have known about the condemned man's mask. So unless you actually seen the professor that night, it's inconceivable that the artist would have included the mask in that illustration. Okay, now that makes more sense. So it's like, even though he says, "Oh, I didn't see him," the newspaper tells otherwise. He did see him. He's lying. Well, Mr. Drebber? It's a vile scene, isn't it? If you look closely. And as I've already been at pains to point out, I was utterly petrified, which is why I had it in my head that I seen such a blood-curdling sight. But afterwards, I came to my senses and realized that I've been mistaken. You're still saying you didn't see it? If you're stubbornly sticking to that story, witness, then amend your testimony to explain exactly how you think your eyes deceived you. Of course, only too happy to oblige. I can't believe he's still not going to concede the point. What I in fact witnessed was a fellow grave robber at work.
Hold it!
A fellow grave robber? What are you talking about? Well, I wasn't the only one busy in the cemetery that night, you know. Other body snatchers were at work. Of course, when I saw one emerging from the hole he dug, my heart very nearly stopped. So that's the terrifying sight I actually saw, you see. You're claiming it was just another student on equally insalubrious business as yourself. Many of the medical students will wear metal masks to protect them from bacteria during dissections. Clearly, the fellow was using such a mask to protect his anonymity. How do you pronounce that? How can I forget to pronounce that? Anonymity. I can't say it. Anonymity. Okay, I need to know how to pronounce it. Pronounce anonymity. How do you pronounce that?
Anonymity.
Anonymity. Wow, I really can't pronounce it. Anonymity. There we go. Anemone.
Objection!
But there's more to the story, isn't there? The article goes on to say, in the next second, a gunshot rang out suddenly from behind. The bullet pierced to resurrect the man's chest, whose breath then stilled once more. We might assume that the sexton discovered the miscreants at work, perhaps, and fired upon one of them. If a gravedigger had shot someone in the cemetery, I think it might have been rather big news, my lord. Yes, well, I can only assume it was an embellishment bolted on later by the reporter. An embellishment? Excuse me. Madame Spells, don't take it out on Mr. Sholmes. Die. Oh la la, pardon. I was lost in my thoughts. Would it be fair to say that Mr. Drebber's last remark was significant to you in some way? This case loves using the word significant. I thought it was a little strange, that is all. How Monsieur Drebber could claim this now? If you don't mind me saying, madame, what are you talking about? Well, when I met you 10 years ago at your university dormitory, you recounted to me about your adventures in the cemetery, non? Including the gunshot. Stop! Oh. You might want to watch your tongue, you know.
Objection!
Have a care, Drebber. That's no way to speak to a lady. Fancy says care for the lady, because Madame Spells is magnificent. She is significant, if I might say. Please, Madame Spells, carry on. Of course. According to what Monsieur Drebber told me at the time, he did hear a gunshot from behind him and the bullet hit the condemned man. I said nothing of the sort. None, you were very explicit about the details, about the mask that the figure was wearing, and the blood that splattered over you when he was shot. Enough! Shut up, woman! You're making all this up! That will do. Mr. Drebber. Yes? You refute the account just given by Madame Spells. We did find blood on the camera. That part is true. I have no recollection of ever saying those things. Come on, do you really expect us to believe you? Control yourself, counsel. I will not permit baseless accusations in my courtroom. Right. Under the circumstances, I think it best that you supplement your testimony with a statement to clarify your position on this witness. Very well. Drebber should be held in contempt of court for threatening. Threats are fine in court for some reason. I mean, worse things have happened. Hold on, I'm gonna go check the camera again because we did see blood. I think it was around this here, like when we opened this up. Blood. Blood, 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 blood. I see the blood. I see the blood. This is not what you're thinking, right? Ah, there's blood on the camera. No splattering blood.
Objection.
Finally, I used the camera. Mr. Drebber, do you remember this camera? But that is the camera from that fateful night. Yes, we borrowed it from the House of Horror. She stole it. We borrowed it. It's the camera you took with you to the cemetery that night, Mr. Drebber. And is that supposed to be significant? Significant. This kind of camera is rarely seen in our homeland, so my colleague and I were keen to examine it closely. We noticed that the lens extends forwards on the end of some bellows. Like this.
Hold it!
What's that? They're just on the bellows. It looks like a dark red stain. That's right. It's a rather conspicuous mark here on the bellows, in fact. Good lord, are you suggesting... Yes, my lord. It would appear to be a splatter of blood. 10-year-old blood, to be exact. That blood is 10 years old. Congratulations. That blood can go to... 5th grade? Something that could be confirmed with a simple chemical test. Isn't that right, Dr. Sif? It would be difficult to determine if it was human blood and not the blood of some animal. But yes, to test whether or not it's blood at all is simple enough. I propose that Madame Spell's testimony was correct, and that on the night in question 10 years ago, you were splattered with blood from the gunshot wound. Well, and that furthermore, you really did witness the condemned professor emerging from his tomb. There is simply no way you could have forgotten such a traumatic experience. In other words, the only explanation is that you're trying to hide the fact that you saw the professor that night.
Objection!
But why? Why would he want to do that? Well, not for his own gain, it would seem. For whose then? Who could benefit? Mr. Drebber is obviously lying in order to protect somebody. My goodness, he's shielding somebody? Yes, my lord, and clearly, it's someone who doesn't want the truth about the professor coming back to life to be exposed. Well, counsel, who is it then? Who is this witness trying to protect by lying about what he saw that night? It was Susato Mikotoba, because she has the name sus in her name. She has the word sus in her name, so she's sus.
Take that!
The obvious answer is Dr. Sif. Sif? What? Whatever do you mean? Imagine if the convict who had been sentenced to death was not in fact killed. Imagine if that was to come to light. What are you insinuating? And imagine if the convict in question was the country's most hated mass murderer. If it was the professor, that would be an unprecedented scandal.
Objection!
This is beyond a joke. Need I point out that the dead cannot come back to life? What you're suggesting would mean that the execution never actually happened. Yes, that's exactly what it would mean.
Objection!
Once a man is sent to the gallows, he hangs. No one could escape, not in Great Britain. What about America, though?
Objection!
In America, everybody escapes by hanging. But the fact is, there was a witness to the fact that the man did escape his hanging. If that were really true, counsel, the implications of misconduct would not stop at the supervising coroner. It would taint the honor of the entire judiciary from the ground up. Naruhodo against the freaking government, what the heck? And it's exactly because of these monumental repercussions that Dr. Sif will consent to any demand made of her by someone who threatened to expose the secret, even if that meant being complicit in a crime. You mean? I mean that Dr. Sif wasn't collaborating in Mr. Drebber's wicked scheme. She was coerced into collaborating in order to protect her decade-old secret. She switched the dead body of Mr. Asman with the waxwork model and fabricated the autopsy report. Ah! We got her. Ladies and gentlemen. Oh. Lord Von Zeeks, your leg. It's beautiful. Pray forgive my freshly filled hallowed chalice. And a whole raft of other discourtesies now. Goodness me. It's just the sort of tall tale Londoners would enjoy, I grant you. An executed killer rising from the dead, a Scotland Yard cover-up, a conspiracy at the highest levels. So let me ask you one thing. What's that? If the condemned man really did emerge from his tomb that night only to be shot in the chest, who pulled the trigger and disposed of him forever? Well, I have no idea at the moment. We have too little info to work that out at present, I think. I couldn't agree more. The Old Bailey's no place for wild fantasies. And have you considered this, my Lord Nipponese friend? Considered what? Do you realize just what a dangerous endeavor it would be to coerce this woman into such criminal activity? It's tantamount to declaring war on the entire British police force and judiciary. Quite. Hard to imagine any sum of money being offered for research could warrant it. To rely on some stage deception when so much is at stake would be madness. Well, I suppose... And this was no petty crime either. The victim was murdered. A man who already invested money into the venture, and will be instrumental in future profits too. Yes, I had no reason to kill Mr. Asman at all. Or are you forgetting that his death results in me receiving not a single penny? The court is already aware of the contract between myself and the victim, no? There is a contract, that's very true. The motive for this case runs deep, though. I can feel it. Using threats to force the head of the forensics investigation team to cooperate is extreme. Especially for a government grant he had no guarantee of receiving in the first place. If the research grant was the aim, taking Mr. Asman's life would have made no sense anyway. Which means Mr. Drebber's motive wasn't money at all. He was just trying to kill Mr. Asman for fun, for the lulz. To sell his body. To sell his body! But why? What was his motive then? Your time is up, my lord and friend. I'd say you have one last chance before the jury lose their patience with this charade. Let's see if you can back up your heady proposal, shall we? I love how you backed off. I love that he backed up for that. That's amazing. How do you explain why this engineer would throw all caution to the wind and threaten his own country? That's amazing. At this point, I'm not prepared to listen to more of this outlandish conjecture without proof. So, I can imagine the first time he did that, and what if he didn't back up? That he had to learn to back up when he did that. So the first time that happened, when he threw his chalice, he actually got hit. I'm pretty sure he got hit. So, counsel, present your evidence. Alright, who exactly was Mr. Asmund to Drebber? There's a connection there that no one's seen yet, and I'm going to have to present 2 pieces of evidence to show what it is. Yes, my lord. The evidence that establishes a motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead is right here. What would that be? A motive and explains why the witness wanted the victim dead. Why did he want Mr. Asmund dead? Why did he want Mr. Asmund dead? Stab wounds to the chest, but why did he want him dead? Why did he want him dead? This needs some thinking over. Just gonna save just in case, but yeah. Why would he want him dead? There has to be a good reason why. Can't be the glass, the camera, the science trophy. Waxwork head, killer's autopsy report, Drebber contract. That both parties are alive. Phone labor, kinesis machine. Maybe something in here that I don't know about. Oh, wait. The signature here. Odi Asmund. Is he the one that exposed him? It's this newspaper article, my lord. That was written 10 years ago, and every detail has been examined already. What can it possibly tell us? That dribble should never have been written. It's typical gutter press nonsense that means nothing. Yes, on its own, it isn't particularly significant, however, when considered alongside another piece of evidence, it will completely explain your motive for wanting Mr. Asmund dead. What other evidence? Counsel, you will present your supplementary evidence without delay. The evidence, which when cross-referenced with the newspaper article, establishes a motive for the deed. Because it has he has his signature right here, so he's the one that doxed him all that time. But now we need to cross-reference that with something. So now we have to establish a motive for why. A motive. Establishes a motive for the deed. Motive. I'm thinking. Husband. What was it you noticed on the newspaper? His signature. Odi Asmund was the photographer.
Take that!
I think it's fair to say that after your presentation of evidence, counsel, we have only half up. That's right, my lord, which is why I just presented another piece of evidence to complete it. His signature. What was it you noticed on this newspaper? Okay. I got the irony. That was just a pun, Mr. Naruhodo. The irony was elsewhere. I'm sorry. I keep thinking way too quickly on this. The freaking box. This box I'm in. Alright. The evidence I need to supplement the article. I know it's right in front of my eyes. That's an issue with me. It's just too quick sometimes. It's way too quick. La 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 la. There, happy? Is this the contract? Is this contract, my lord? Mr. Drebber, this is the contract you signed with Mr. Asman. Yes, that's right. The very document, in fact. That proves I had no reason to kill the man. No, I'm afraid not. What? There's something very significant, again, that this newspaper article and the contract have in common. Really? And it's that common link that shows very clearly why you were determined to kill Mr. Odi Asman. It seems the defense has uncovered something the rest of us have missed. So, my learned friend, point out what these two pieces of evidence have in common. Where exactly is the link between this newspaper article and the contract? That beautiful face. Signature.
Take that!
What these two pieces of evidence have in common is a signature. A signature? The signature on the illustration that accompanies the 10-year-old article and the signature on the contract belong to the same person. What? As the court has heard, this illustration was drawn 10 years ago by the newspaper reporter who found Mr. Drebber and interviewed him about his ordeal. If you look closely, the reporter's signature can be seen in the bottom right corner of the drawing. And if you look at the contract here, which was signed between the witness and the victim last year, you can clearly see Mr. Asman's signature at the bottom. Let me see now. Good lord, yes, they're identical. Can you really write the same after 10 years straight? 10 years of the same exact signature. No, he has a stamp. It's a freaking stamp. In short, the journalist who drew the illustration and wrote the article published about Mr. Drebber 10 years ago was the victim of this case, Mr. Odi Asman. Oh. He's on the floor now.
Objection!
Well, explain it to the court why. Why would that constitute a motive for the witness to murder Asman? Well, if you think back, you'll remember that Mr. Drebber talked about that article in his testimony. I mean, I think I still write the same way. I still write very small. Grave robbing, you say? Yes, exhuming fresh corpses to sell is reasonably lucrative. That is quite beyond the pale. You would invite divine retribution, sure? Yes, well, I think I suffered retribution enough. I got doxxed. The Daily Circus eventually unearthed my name and put it in print. It caused me a great many headaches. In the end, I had to leave the university. That was the only paper with the bad grace to identify me unambiguously, I might add. Then I gave up on my dream of becoming a scientist, and it was all because of that newspaper article. At the time, you were a student at the University of London who dreamt of becoming a scientist. However, the Signal newspaper article changed your entire life. So Mr. Asman used to be a newspaper journalist, did he? He did, my lord. In fact, there was a widely held belief that Asman managed to position himself at the heart of his criminal network, thanks to the many dubious connections he made during his time as reporter. So you had to give up on your dream and leave university. You lost everything. Eventually, you found yourself working in the field of science, but only in the shadows. And all because of that article, written by Mr. Asman. Enough! Stop this endless drivel about my life. What? Explain yourself, Mr. Drebber. Yes, it's true. I had to leave the university as a result of that article. But it was just a straw that broke the camel's back. What do you mean? Almost every student of science in the faculty was too poor to actually conduct any research. But they struggled on with their hypothesis anyway. We all did, only to have them taken by vultures. Sooner or later, you knew that your ideas would be stolen and panned by some wretch or other after all. Good gracious. Making a name for yourself as a scientist in a climate like that was a miracle only a select few geniuses could ever hope to achieve. Personally, I wasn't one of those geniuses, so it was hardly a wrench. Being forced out of the university because of Logate was the best thing that could have happened to me.
Objection.
Mr. Drebber, do you genuinely believe that? Of course I do. Who's better placed to know whether or not I possess a talent for science than me? I'm sorry to say that your words don't ring true at all. How dare you? And I have evidence to prove it. How are you in a position to say anything about me? I don't know you from Adam. Fine, if you think you have evidence, go ahead, show it. What could you possibly have to disprove the idea that I was happy to leave university because I lacked talent? Mr. Trophy! Do you remember this, Mr. Drebber? We found it at your workshop. Ugh. Is that a Royal Society trophy for excellence in science? What exactly is this trophy, Council? It's the greatest honor that can be bestowed on a young scientist, my lord. There is no higher accolade. It recognizes emerging talent and promises a bright future. Good gracious. Your prospects for the future were excellent, weren't they, Mr. Drebber? But even then, you were a genius in your field. But you lost everything. You had no more future. Your talents would go to waste. All as a result of this one newspaper article. I don't know when you realized who Mr. Asmund was, but when it dawned on you that he was the same journalist 10 years ago ruined your life, it's abundantly clear that you had no intention of forgiving the man. The truth is, finally, he's gonna fold. Oh! Fine. Clearly this has run its course now. What? I admit it. All of it. Oh. Is she just really giving up right there? What? What are you doing? It's exactly as the Japanese man said. I was coerced into going along with this man's plot to murder the victim, on the condition that he kept my dirty secret from 10 years ago. No. Good lord! Dr. Sif, do you realize what you're saying, woman? Woman! It's all true. That day, when I arrived at the Crystal Tower and saw the birdcage, my heart nearly stopped beating. That memory from a decade ago that I'd done my best to bury deep inside myself. It was the professor again, staring me in the face. And then, before I had a chance to react, I noticed something else. There was a note tucked inside the model's jacket. Dr. Sif, you will go along with my plan. From someone who knows the truth about what really happened that night 10 years ago. All the instructions were there in the note. Every detail was meticulously written out. I had no choice but to do what it said. I made the necessary alterations to the scene and fabricated the autopsy report as instructed. There was really no other choice. It had to be done to protect the judiciary. I can only apologize now. To be honest, I didn't expect it to just go up like that. I was not expecting the abrupt end. Why on earth would you buckle now? Well, there's no point in trying to hide it anymore, is there? I would have done anything to stop it coming out, even collaborate in a murder. But the great lie about that execution 10 years ago has been exposed. Whatever happens, I'm finished. So either way, people know about it now. So then, Mr. Driver, what do you say to that? Your accomplice has admitted everything. Surely it goes without saying. You admit your part in it too, then? I admit nothing at all. Have you forgotten that the kinesis machine was ripped to shreds by an explosion? Short of me admitting to a crime, there's really no possible way for you to prove that I did anything wrong. No! Freaking Drubber. Or door. Whatever this man says, I admit everything. He threatened to expose my secret, so I went along with his plan. And Lord Von Zeeks? Yes? I hope you'll accept my apologies. What happens next is in your hands, of course. Dang, I've heard more than enough now. I hereby present the final findings of this court. This trial is not the proper forum in which to pursue the alleged wrongdoings of Mr. Drubber. The defendant is Professor Albert Harebrain. Very true. It has slipped my mind. Isn't he one of your closest friends? As the court has heard, Dr. Sif has admitted to the allegations brought by the defense, thereby absolving the defendant of any possible guilt. You mean? At the present time, it is the conclusion of this court that the defendant was not involved in any wrongdoing. Does the prosecution have any objections? I mean, even though we were getting closer to finding out about the truth, this is about Harebrain, not anything else. We solved his guilt. We proved his non-guiltiness. None, my lord. Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo, but I feel empty because we didn't find the truth. You've proven Professor Harebrain's innocent. But we didn't get the truth! Without further ado, the adjudication. Unless the prosecution or defense have any matters to discuss. I don't know. This doesn't feel quite right. Why did Dr. Sif suddenly admit to it like that? Is everything alright, Mr. Naruhodo? Like you said before, the way the trial is set to end now, the judge will certainly deliver a verdict of not guilty. But is that really what we want? What the defense should be pushing for now is immediate adjudication, further testimony. What if I just go for it?
Objection.
The defense objects to the trial ending at this time, my lord. I beg your pardon? We demand one final testimony. We are going for the truth. What? It's not a Phoenix Wright game unless we get the truth. We need the truth. You do realize I'm about to adjudicate in favor of your client, I presume? What are you playing at now, my Nipponese friend? Why would you want to obstruct the conclusion of the trial at this point? No defense lawyer in his right mind would do that. Well, I'm not of right sounding mind, of course. I'm crazy. Mr. Naruhodo, what exactly are you thinking? The truth, the whole truth, and a way to bring it all out into the open. Right. Yes, in hindsight. Ah, yes, one word of warning before I go. If in the course of the trial this afternoon you perceive even a shadow of doubt about the truth, don't let it out of your sight. Pursue it like a dog with a bone. And then in the court, he's just doing this. He's eating that caramel as we speak. To the bitter end, you understand? Do not falter, whatever may come to pass. I'm sure Mr. Sholmes knew. He must have deduced that this would happen. Yes, I'm here in court to advocate for my client and to secure an acquittal. Obviously. But that is not all. I believe that I have a duty to the court to pursue the whole truth of the case until every last detail is laid bare. And that is why the defense calls for further testimony from Dr. Sif. Testimony from me? About what? About the nature of your collaboration with Mr. Enoch Drebber. In case it's escaped your attention, I've already admitted to everything I did. You thought Sholmes was about to lay down the wildest bars for a second. Do you think he will spit hot fire? He will spit hot fire, right? The whole truth has already been revealed. So stop wasting everyone's time. Take the win, take the W. Ugh. As his lordship made very plain, your client will get the acquittal you wanted for him. There's simply no point protracting this business further with another tedious cross-examination.
Objection!
Oh. Ah! Someone is dead. Pray forgive my careless handling of that hallowed bottle. I slipped. That's what you call it? What is your objection, Lord Von Zieks? The prosecution also calls for supplementary testimony from the witness. Don't be stupid. Pray forgive that I got hit by that hallowed box. Stop throwing hallowed meat at me. Why are you throwing hallowed things at me? Those things are hallowed. If there's more to this case than has yet come to light, then I will join my learned friend in pursuing the facts until the better end. Yo, what? Lord Von Zieks. This is most irregular to say the least. However, as the prosecution also calls for it, I will uphold the request. Dr. Sif, you will testify for the court, explaining the full extent of your involvement in the murder apparently committed by Mr. Drebber. Very well. By the way, chat, everybody all good so far? Yeah. Alright. The final testimony, the waxwork plooch. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. I enlisted the help of the entire forensic investigation team to dress the scene appropriately. The truth about the execution 10 years ago is a state secret of the highest level. I had to protect it. So I was right. The stage and the machine were all specially designed for the deception. So it seems, and all meticulously prepared. You did well to see through it. You're a very shrewd boy. So kind of you to say. And what about this autopsy report then? All it did was record the location of the body as being in the Crystal Tower instead of under the stage. That's all? That's a terrible corruption. Only my team were aware of the deceit, and then only under my explicit instructions. Nobody else at Scotland Yard knew anything about it, I assure you. Sorry, small allergies. We must be thankful for small mercies, I suppose. Well, I believe that testimony has clarified everything. There's no particular need for a cross-examination, I would say. No, I disagree. I can't shake the feeling that something's wrong. Just look at that expression on Dr. Sif's face. That smile, that face, those hairs. I don't know. She seems very innocent, right? That's a very innocent face. Yeah, I believe her. Very innocent face right there. You can tell because she has the smile of an angel, of an angle. Is the defense's right to cross-examine any witness following testimony? What is it about you Japanese that makes you all so doggedly persistent? You Japanese? Very well. If you so desire, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's show this lady up. It all began at the scene when I saw the waxwork and the note tucked inside its jacket. From what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea of who was behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I never heard of this engineer. So no, I had no idea. Yet despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it. I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern. But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this. Yes, thank you, Lord Von Zieks. I'm well aware of that. So as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body? I'm the waxwork. The actual body of the victim, as indicated in the note's instructions, was beneath the experimentation stage. So you knew about the special construction of the stage used to carry out the trick then. It was quite obvious what had happened with the victim and the waxwork. And you switched the two over, didn't you? In other words, you recorded the victim's body as having been discovered in the Crystal Tower, and the waxwork? I wrapped it and sent it by carriage to the specified address at the specified time. And why were you given such directions? Presumably so it could be recovered by Drebber and returned to Madame to Spells. I see, and then you put the birdcage back in the experimentation stage? Yes, although someone obviously made a mistake about which cage should go where. I thought I made it perfectly clear to the team, but still. I suppose you were focused on the victim's body, that being a more important detail. The body had to be arranged in certain ways to implicate the defendant, which was my job. When you say arranged, I presume you mean with this? Yes, the instructions in the engineer's notes said something along the lines of fabricate some evidence to make it clear that Harebrained alone could have killed Asmund. So, you mean that was your doing? I fetched Harebrained's ridiculous screwdriver from the stage and took it with me alone to the abyss under the stage where the birdcage had fallen. Alone, Doctor? Oh. I didn't feel it would be appropriate to involve anybody else in that particular part of the deception. There was a void under the stage where I found the birdcage lying in the dirt. I approached it, leaned down, and slowly opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into the man's chest. Wow. And then you noted that in your fake autopsy report as a fictitious cause of death. Exactly. So, the actual cause of death was the trauma resulting from the dirty foot drop. My word. What is it, Mr. Sato? Something about Dr. Siv's last statement is playing on my mind, that's all. Yeah, mine too. Dr. Sif. There is really no need to shout. I can hear you perfectly well. The defense calls for you to add what you just said to your formal testimony. Oh? Which part? What I wanted to supplement her testimony with is the real cause of death, or what she did to the victim. Hold on, I'm gonna look at things more closely, because that is the stab wound right there. There is blood on that, so she did stab him. His neck was broken from the impact of a violent fall, and he was stabbed in the chest with a sharp object. It can't be the trauma then. Hold on. I'm gonna look at this more carefully just to make sure that I get everything just right. Because that did break right there. Unless there's something else I am missing. Because that opens up. And he falls down. But the trauma alone wouldn't kill you. It had to be the stabbing that killed him. There's the glass from the crystal tower, but I don't think that can be used now. I am going to say the real cause of death. The real cause of death being the fall of 30 feet, that part. Fine, if that's what you want. Just stop yelling, please. The prosecution concurs. Very well, you will supplement your testimony now, witness. If you wish, my lord. I can always go back and change it if the neck trauma that Asmund suffered from the 30-foot fall. Could it be the trauma? You're quite sure of that? It was as a result of a broken neck? Yes, as a professional, that was more than apparent. You never know just by looking at the photograph of the victim though, would you? No, that's very true. Obviously not. Which is precisely why coroners are needed to determine the actual facts. Yes, assuming they can be trusted. Yeah. There's no point calling her assessment into question without evidence. Let's get back to the testimony. Very well. What she did to the victim. It was poking through the grill. There is a stab wound to the chest, but you can't tell he has a broken neck. The actual death was the neck trauma, though. Hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that appeared the cause of death was that. Just gotta think. Was it the 30-foot drop, though? Because clearly, this thing did fall and it cracked right here. Yet he was fine aside from the broken neck, but... Can I just go back and see if I can change it, though? Let's see. You mean what you did with this, correct? I was merely carrying out the engineer's instructions. In his words... Fabricate some evidence to make it clear that the harebrain alone could have killed Asmund. And so you went without any of your team to where Asmund had fallen. That's right, yes. I leaned down over the birdcage and opened it up. Then I took the screwdriver in both hands and plunged it into his chest. After that, it was simply a matter of recording the stab wound as the cause of death on the autopsy report. The real cause of death being the fall, of course. I'm sure there's something here in this testimony. You know, if you think it would be appropriate. I'm sure you could ask Dr. Sif to change the supplementary testimony she gave before. What should I ask her to do with the statement she added? I'll change it. Let's see what happens if she changes it. Dr. Sif, what you said before about what you did to the victim's body, I believe that may be significant, so could you change your supplementary testimony statement to explain that instead? Whoops. Alright, let's see what this one says. I stood over the victim's corpse where it lay in the toppled cage and plunged a screwdriver into the chest. If she did do that, then why was this found And through the grill in the base of what remains of the kinesis machine. Did she move it there? She stabbed him right there.
Objection.
Okay, clearly that's not the case. I'm trying to think here. One of those I have to use one of those statements, but then I gotta find the evidence for the statement that I selected. So she stood over the victim's corpse and plunged it into the chest. Maybe I should have selected the other one because I don't know. It doesn't look like he has a broken neck, but
Objection.
Huh. Apparently the photograph works. Maybe the screwdriver should have been in the body? Let's see. I've got a nasty feeling that this inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth. What on earth is the matter, Counsel? Have you lost your tongue? I apologize, my lord. Dr. Sif, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point that seems to defy explanation. Out with it, my learned friend. There is an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection.
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There's nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection.
Yes, we have already considered it, that's true. But we now know the facts to be different. What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain. The inconsistency. Where does the inconsistency lie? Should I point at the blood?
Take that.
Look closely at the bloodstain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. And why is that significant, Counsel? If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected. Oh, of course, no, that's not what happened. Exactly, my lord. Dr. Sif made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which he stole Professor Harebrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear that the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop, and if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. For it to have formed the longitudinal appearance we see in the picture is inconceivable. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Sif, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here. What? What sort of misapprehension? Dr. Sif? You claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as a result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. And you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie, because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer. If that is the case, what is it, man? Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Now tell the court what it is. Which part of Dr. Sif's story is shown to be a lie by the contradiction in her testimony? Stabbing of the victim, the autopsy report? Gotta think about this. Let's see. You claim you were Crows and helped him. You claim that you made changes to the scene to crime manipulate the defendant. You claimed you wanted to. He was standing up. One of these has to be a lie. You claim you made changes to the scene to crime. One of these is a lie. I gotta think. He was standing up when he was stabbed. It couldn't have been after. So, because I'm pretty sure, yeah, she did fake it. So that's the truth. She did fake it. And she claimed that she made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant. That it could also be true. So being coerced could be the lie. Not the Sith. Clearly you weren't really coerced by some letter at all. What? If you were, where is the note? It's nowhere to be seen. That says a maybe. So why don't you present it to the court if the assertion vexes you? Obviously I've already disposed of it, and I'm not vexed in the slightest. Counsel, need I remind you that it was you yourself who established the coercion? Oh, that's my mistake. Okay, so that's true. Okay, I gotta think a little harder. Feeling vexed, my Nipponese friend? Very, very vexed. But there's no question that the coroner's testimony was built on a tremendous lie. The stabbing? Pretty much the stabbing, I guess. The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downwards as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time. But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage. Yes, it would, which tells us that the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
Objection!
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember? No, that is a misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. Which shows by the broken thing at the bottom, yes. Oh man, imagine getting up from that though. But Mr. Asmund didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while, but when he came around, he got to his feet to climb out of the cage. Just as Dr. Sif appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Oh. Mr. Odie Asmund's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Harebrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Sif. Ordar! Can this possibly be true? Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him! You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder! Oh, do shut up! You're so desperate now, you're making all this up as if I would do something like that.
Objection!
I assure you the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Logic? Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asmund? Asmund was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder, but there was no known connection to Dr. Sif here. Not Dr. Sif, but maybe her other name. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched. True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still something in the back of my mind. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report, but murdering someone for no reason is a very different story.
Objection.
No, when you question what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asmund, something did come to mind. What? What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once. Yes, we saw it yesterday, didn't we? Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Sif would have wanted to kill Mr. Asmund. The scalpels? The Iron Mask. It's the Iron Mask. You've lost me. Huh? Sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but why the Iron Mask? Oh, wait. Even I made a mistake. I clearly have no idea. Flip, why is my brain thinking so weirdly now? Forgive the interruption, Dr. Sif. But what my colleague meant to say was scalpels. Oh, scalpels. It was scalpels. Why did I say the flippin' Iron Mask? Am I an idiot sometimes? My brain doesn't even work at all sometimes. I feel like, what was it? What was it? There was a connection. She does buy a lot of scalpels. That's the thing. Of course, the scalpels. Did you say scalpels? It would appear that word has struck the chord, Doctor. Come on, out with it. It was yesterday, when we visited your laboratory. She did say something about scalpels, needing a lot of scalpels. Oh, you had the book. It appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team spending, I think. Iron Mask sounds like a lot like scalpels. I know I made a mistake. I don't know what's going on in my brain sometimes. I make mistakes, but then I figure it out afterwards. It happens. Ace Attorney's for the smart people. I'm not smart. What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but, well, one entry seems rather strange. Really, in what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month. The scalpels. 500 scalpels a month? At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant. It's the money for them, disappearing every month from the department's accounts. Asmund's criminal organization relied heavily on extortion for its funding, so they were buying 500 scalpels, tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going. Would be extremely straightforward. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asmund was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have stumbled upon info as he was researching the story. Info related to Dr. Sif's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade. Her darkest secret? Good lord, you mean? I don't know what happened on the night of that execution 10 years ago, but clearly the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmund in the heart with all your might. To silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years. as very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb. The truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Sif will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done and tell the court the truth of what happened. "10 years ago, you told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand that your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate had over you over all these years." Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis? I mean, really? It's the adult brain mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypothesis, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the Kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it? So you admit it? You admit that it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim? Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge. Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmund's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you saw didn't stop at Asmund, did it? Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see. The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago, if your account of those events was all true, then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened. Even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had. So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well, or on Dr. Sif to be precise. It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asmund turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye about the coroner who handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learned that news, my cognitive processes started to devise a plan. What a horrid tale. He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own walls against him for revenge. And have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I had to suffer. Your actions against those who ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly, no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, in carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you? Did I? Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis, but you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this, your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Oh. I... Lord Von Zeeks? What of Dr. Sif? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted and she's been remanded in custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain. Oh, yes. It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say, you were absolved of all guilt. This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. This dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy, I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool. Professor, I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research, misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process, I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I. No, Professor, that's not true. What? Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way. Lord Von Zeeks. And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices. Oh. Thank you, Barak. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, yes, my lord. It is this court's expectation that you find the defendant not guilty of the charge of which he stands accused. I presume there are no objections? None for me, my lord. Certainly not. This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever. What's that? He's done easy? Is it all over? I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant not guilty! Yay! Catch the confetti and fireworks with your teeth! It's good luck if you catch a confetti in your teeth. Even better luck if you catch a firework by the teeth. Court is adjourned! Yeah! Case 3 is over! It's over? That was some trial. The episode ends like that, that would be funny. If the episode just ends like that. It's over, it's finally over. Episode over. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it? Oh, it is, it is. Congratulations, Professor Harebrain. Mr. Naruhodo, Mr. Sato, I am truly beside myself with gratitude. How could I ever thank you enough? I'm just glad it's all been cleared up, that you realized you were just caught up in a bad situation. Right now, you know, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you, every penny. Well, that's very kind, but I'm just a student, so we don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough, but a paycheck would be nice. Oh dear, oh, what can I do? How about this? As a memento, the paper about my hypothesis is inside. Well, yes, as a memento then, thank you. I've been wondering, Professor, what are you going to do now? Oh my, yes, what am I gonna do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the great exhibition whilst I'm here too, and see if new inspiration does hit me. Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that. Oh. Von Ziegse. Lord Von Ziegse, what are you doing in here? Barock. I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. You're one of the few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense. Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right? He considers me friend. I always knew that you had my best interest at heart, don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We had a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert. In a few days, your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets. But no, hold on a minute, Barock. What about the great exhibition? This is the chance of a lifetime for me. I want to look around. No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barock. Lord Von Ziegse? What's all this about? Unnecessary precaution. Yes, I think I understand. You do? Well, Iris told me that when you met Lord Von Ziegse at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well. Even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. Oh, he wants to keep Albert safe. The Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas? Those in the Reaper's sight meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up to now. But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent. True, and perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend. But Barock. Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That's why I'm packing him off to Germany at once. Right. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along then, Lord Von Ziegse? In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all. It's time to go, Albert. Back to the prison for the time being. Yes, alright. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you. Best wishes, Professor Harebrained. Well, once the dust has settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Well, he's going to Shramane. No, my Nipponese friend. Oh, yes, I thought you'd gone too. We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time? You want to talk with me? I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes. Oh. Well, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. Oh goodness, the Enigma Barak von Zieks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes then. Happy birthday! It's a birthday party for you, haha! It's 1 year since we've been friends, my Nipponese friend, aha! I baked this cake for you. This cake is for you! Eat up, my boy! The friggin' professor is still there. Can somebody take him away? Oh wait, the mask. So wait, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice. Yes, I think so. I'm relieved at least, that the man's innocence could be proven. Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity towards you Nipponese come from. Oh. Is he just going to explain the animosity? Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagine you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now I think differently. You clearly know our ways, so I would have guessed that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened? Please? The professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest. He took your brother's life. Clint. My brother was Clint von Zieks. 16 years ago, when I was still just in my teens, he was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary. I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan. Oh, if it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father. Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba well. I had no idea. I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the 3 visiting Nipponese. So you've actually met my father? He and his colleagues were polite and admissible. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even, just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved. I'm so sorry, Lord von Zieks. Truly. Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway, so he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me personally though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. When I finally found out the killer's identity, the reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time. In plain sight? Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires. A new treaty was being forged, I think. Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our 2 nations could very well have ended up at war. What? A war between Britain and Japan? But that would mean... Oh my, you mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time. Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Oh.
Father. What? Father?
No freaking way!
Kazuma!
I freaking called it! I freaking called it! I flippin' called it!
My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned. As he stood there before me, Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotoba.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
I owe you thanks, too, for taking good care of that in my absence.
Oh. Karuma. Great blade of the Asogi clan. Passed down through the generations.
Oh, I agree. Why isn't there more voice acted scenes? These are good voices.
When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side.
But after all this, there's one
Japanese
big
man's katana
thing
is
on
his
my
soul.
mind now.
Couldn't be parted from it.
Sholmes lied. Sholmes is a freaking liar.
When the incident happened,
There's a bigger mystery going on after this now.
that I inherit the sword. And I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared.
He's been lying to us since game 1.
With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
But imagine if this whole game were voice acted, that would change everything. Maybe for Ace Attorney 7? Maybe? But what a flippin'
I've made it.
twist.
At last.
Father.
But yeah, the three people had to be Dr. Mikotoba, the judge, and Papa.
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean you knew all this time? I'm looking at it, but I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Madame Dispel did an amazing job, though. Wow. Is he... Not the kind of sound I was expecting when it fell down. That was so hollow.
Ryunosuke, we have much to talk about, but now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
Yeah, Madame Dispel is actually gonna kill him. He's actually going to die for real this time. What the heck? What the heck? What the heck?
Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
What are we gonna do for episode 4? 5 was, at this rate, 5 is gonna be crazy. The last case is gonna be crazy. So he's the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes, Kazuma Asogi, my best friend. 3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection. But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Von Zieks' apprentice? And when he was suffering amnesia too? The man was apprehended, even executed, but his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked. But now we know why he hates the Japan. He just vanished. They could have just faded out to black, not made him just vanish and then fade to black. He just went... 10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him. Of course, Usato-san, all this is tied up with painful memories for her too. She's never talked about this with me before, though. It took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Kazuma Asogi. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter, something stirred. Something that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
Makes a lot of sense because we're done with episode 3. Are we? End. Well, you can't see it because I'm blocking it, but it says end. Hey. Well, holy flip, that was case 3. What the heck? This game is just getting crazier and crazier. Oh, Twisted Karma and his last bow. But yeah, before we end, I just want to say, Sholmes lied. He flippin' lied. Why did he lie? What is going on here? There's a lot of things we gotta learn, and I hope that these last 2 episodes explain everything. Either way, that'll be the end of tonight's stream. I hope you all enjoyed yourselves. This has been a crazy episode. But we will get back to this. We will start episode 4 next week. And also, just to let you know, everybody, I will not be streaming tomorrow because I will be away that day. But I will be back on Sunday with another stream. So, I'll catch you all Sunday. And yay, 10,000 subs on YouTube. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Go, 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 go. But yeah. See you, everybody. Have a good night, and I'll catch you all Sunday. Adios.